Alright, hello folks. I am finally happy to announce that I'm pretty much done with this project. And I'm quite pleased with it, although there are some issues that I'll talk about later. Let me put it back to noon here so we can actually look at this thing. Okay, so I think it turned out quite nicely. And the last time you saw it, it was just the engine and the frame and the transmission, basically the drivetrain and the frame, suspension, no cab, and or exhaust or any of this stuff. One of the things that I implemented in this build is when you can actually swing the cab forward, and notice how it bounces a little bit. It has that kind of almost like it's has a little slop in the mounts, if you will. Well, that's because it does. I mounted the cab on springs, so let me drive around a little bit here. You can see the cab bounces around a little bit. And so the biggest thing you're going to notice is that this is not to scale. And that's because it's not to scale. The reason that it's not to scale is because I tried to use the scale tool. I built it at this size, which is about twice as large as it should be, realistically. And I was going to scale it down, but I could not because the scale tool broke everything, basically. I didn't even put it to change the power of the engine, but it still made the power of the engine all off. And I could have fixed that pretty easily, but it messed up all the springs. And since this build has a ton of it's spring-based, like even stuff down to the little flapper, it's controlled by springs and jets and stuff, and it's very complex in the way it works, and it has to be fine-tuned just the way I had built it. And basically, when I tried to scale it, it kind of ruined everything. Made the springs way too soft, and I couldn't stiffen them up at all. I think there's a certain limit to how stiff you can make springs in SimplePlanes. If you set them to like over 200 or something, there's really no effect when you try to go higher. But it does have leaf springs suspension that actually does work. The leaf springs are modeled, fully modeled, and the rear ones are incredibly stiff. I made them that way because in real life, like they're so stiff you're not even going to see them deflect really at all under normal use. But they do work a little bit, and that's because if you were to put like an 80,000 pound trailer on this thing, I don't know how heavy trailers are, I'm just guessing, but if you were to pull a heavy tractor trailer with this thing, 18-wheeler, it would need to be really stiff in order to support that. And so I made them really stiff in the rear. The front ones are a lot softer, and you can actually see them deflecting as you go over bumps and stuff. And the doors open by clicking, just like they do in BeamNG, and you can also... Okay, you can also click on the inside to shut them. You can see here, click there, you can hop in, whoops, okay, there we go, and shut the door behind you. Just like that. You don't need to mess around with activation groups, it automatically does it. Or you can use, this is Activate 4, and this one over here is Activate 3. And you can see the interior is not the best part of it. I mean, I definitely modeled the interior. You can see here there's a little, it's so dark in here. There's a key, and you can actually click the key to turn it on and off, and then it won't drive. And here we have an idle adjustment. If you pull this out, it'll kind of put the throttle on just a little bit, because that's what in BeamNG it has that feature. And these are mostly for aesthetics, these switches here, but the lights, that does turn the lights on. It's Activate 1. And the majority of this build was just placing a bunch of tiny details, so it's kind of monotonous. Also, the shifter does sort of work. Well, it doesn't do anything, but I just put it to E and Q if you want to see it move. The pedals, well, they're very rudimentary pedals, but they work. And one of the simplest ways to make a steering wheel is with a hollow fuselage. Some people will angle fuselages that are round like these supports and just angle them around. And that works, it just takes a lot longer, and you also have the hard lines between them. So I prefer this because this is a perfectly round steering wheel. It just has these kind of sharp edges, which is the only downside. So let's take a look at the engine under the hood a little bit closer. So you can see the fan does spin, and at an idle it spins slower, and then when you hit the gas it actually speeds up. And our turbo sound is modeled. Here, let me turn the volume up a little bit. I used a code to run the engine, a Funky Trees code from BeamNG. Unfortunately, I can't really properly credit him because he's no longer on this on SimplePlanes.com, unfortunately. But he used it in his Caterpillar build, the big dump truck he built, and I thought that worked really well, so I put it on here. And basically it can model a lot of different realistic features. Like, first off, when you get on the gas, it doesn't give you instantly full power. So I'm going to hit the gas all the way right now, and now it's full power. So a little bit earlier than that, actually, but right about when you hear the turbo get to full speed is when it delivers full power. So it simulates the turbo kind of ramping up and giving the engine more power and more torque. And then furthermore, it's limited to like 115 to 20, somewhere in there, but it slowly turns down the power of the engine as you get faster and faster. So you can see that it's accelerating less fast and slower, and now it's pretty much at its maximum speed of 120. Alright, so several people helped me out with the flapper to get it to collide with this exhaust pipe and not clip through it. And so thank you to those people who helped me out on the forum. I think I deleted it now because I wasn't using it anymore, but thanks for that. I appreciate the help. Also, another interesting feature is this drive shaft in the back does spin. It's not the most realistic thing, and I am using the limitless spin mod, so it spins faster than it would without it. But don't worry, if you don't have that mod, it'll still work. It just will spin a little slower. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much this build in a nutshell. It took me a while because, I mean, you can see it's got quite a bit of detail, but the main reason is I just ended up procrastinating a lot. I could have done it quite a bit earlier, but especially with the interior, I mean, it's just a lot of placing tiny parts and getting little tiny things to work, and to me that's a little bit finicky and annoying. Oh, it scared me. I accidentally clicked, I think I clicked the button through the cab. I did not know that was possible. You can click the button through the cab. I thought we were flipping over, but it's just the cab opening. That's kind of funny. But anyways, yeah, it is pretty much done. I might do a little bit more tweaking here and there. Sorry it's not to scale. If any of you can figure out how to get it to scale, I'm going to upload it pretty soon from when this video comes out, and you can feel free to mess around with it and do what you want. Like I said, I'll probably upload this to SimplePlanes.com pretty soon. So thank you for watching. I will see you next time.